What's going on, everybody? Today is August 17th, Thursday. This is the Daily AI Show. You guys have made it. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And today we got most of the group. Robert couldn't make it with us, but we do have Carl. Carl, I wasn't able to hang out with you yesterday, so welcome back, man. Glad I watched your guys' show yesterday. I thought it was awesome. Some really super insights there as far as jailbreaking and what that means to businesses. Today, we are talking about Midjourney, but I think we'll even expand this out beyond Midjourney and really talk about, the current state of affairs with these AI tools, these text to image AI tools and things like that. But since we sort of put the topic at Midjourney, I think let's start there. They have some, new versions coming out all the time. I was doing some research for the show, and I think like you guys, it's kind of crazy to think that they showed up a year ago, or Adobe Firefly showed up 4 months ago, and already has like 1 billion pictures made and stuff like that. So wanted to open it up to you guys to start out. Who's got some either thoughts on Midjourney, and then after Midjourney, let's expand it out and talk about, these other tools like Firefly, DALL-E, to Stable Diffusion, which is like everywhere. And then obviously tools that I really like Leonardo and stuff. But let's kick it off with Midjourney.
Yeah.
What do you guys think?
Hey, I'll jump on because Midjourney is my favorite AI app. I think I got it to before ChatGPT. And love it. I've always had this closet desire to be a quote unquote artist. My sister got that gene, I didn't. And I wouldn't be trying to claim that I am an artist now that I can use a tool like Midjourney. But the creativity factor of it is just amazing. So, and it's come so far in the last, 3 to 6. What are we? Mid-August 2023. I mean, it's come so far in the last 3 to 6 months. It's amazing. Still does a pretty bad job of hands, but and I tend to post lots of samples online for people to look at, and I still think people struggle with the way it's set up in terms of having to have Discord set up, and then having to understand the prompt system that they've got, which is a little bit counterintuitive. And I know they're working on having it available on web only, so you don't have to worry about Discord. And I'm sure they will produce some sort of wizard type of scenario where you can say, okay, well, I want this style, and you'll just select these buttons and then give it a prompt and off it'll go. But as it stands, it's still my favorite tool. I was talking to Jumi last night, just showing him some of the sample artwork I've been creating with it, which I'm using to slowly build a print-on-demand business. Really? Yeah, and so it's cool, it's fun, it's interesting. I think version 6, what I've been able to find was high resolution images. So currently, the way it works is it's I think the standard square is 1024 by 1024 pixels, and it's 72 pixels or dots per inch. Which, you want, so if you want to print, you can't print very effectively with that kind of thing. So you've got to. What I have to do if I want to print my artwork is I have to upscale it. So I've got an online tool I've subscribed to called, what's it called? Something JPEG. I'll have to look it up. I can't even remember now. But it literally 6 or 8x the size of the image, so I can actually send it off to a printer, and works great. But they're talking about increasing the size of the image. Now, whether that includes increasing the DPI or not, I don't know. That'll be the interesting one. They're also talking about better image composition. I still, it still sometimes gives me weird stuff. I'm starting to play more with things like the chaos command just to get a little bit of variety out of it. And I found one yesterday, which was the weird. I think it's a new one. Any of you guys seen or heard or used?
The weird command is exactly as stated. Yeah.
So that's entertaining.
Depending on temperature.
I use weird more than I use chaos, actually.
Yeah. I only heard about weird yesterday, so that was the first time for me. So, but I think it's an awesome product. I'm really excited about where it's going, particularly once it starts to go into business video and things like that. I think it's going to be a really cool product. Sorry, Beth, back to you.
No, Midjourney is also my favorite AI app, although Claude and I are having a really lovely time together as well. I have done But Rachel said something about like if you want to like shore up your AI ops skills, be really good at prompting, like really understand that, automations, and learn how to brand digital images, right? Generate branded digital images. And so I took that to heart and dove into Midjourney, and I've explored a bunch of things, but what has ended up happening is I've created an aspirational furniture and toy design company called Posh Paradox, because I love that Midjourney can create photographs of things that are impossible or improbable. Right?
Yep. Expand on that. Tell me more about that, Beth, because I'm not sure I'm following you on this. Okay, so give me or show us an example if you want.
Yeah, I was going to say, you can show us an example.
I will show an example. Which I should have had set up. But the technique that I use, that I play with, is improvisational digital collage, basically. So I am drawing something and then uploading it and seeing what Midjourney wants to do with it. Midjourney is giving me something, I'm pulling it down, I'm editing, I'm like playing with a bunch of stuff.
I love that. So you're actually using Midjourney as almost like a artistic assistant through the creative process, as opposed to how I would say I'm probably using it, because I don't have a whole lot of Aaron, I'm like you, I don't have I wouldn't say I have any artistic skill in me. Somehow that my daughter does. She can draw better than me tenfold, but I don't. I'm good at like drawing blueprints and straight lines and using that kind of stuff. So to me, it's like I try to put in a prompt and I'm like whatever it gives me, but then I kind of feel like Beth, like I look at it and I go like, well, that's that. That's as far as I can take that, And what I would really love, and I'm sure I'm not the only one here, is the ability to correct prompts and get iterations over time, as opposed to having to start net new with a prompt. It would be so nice to go, here's the prompt, and you get 4 examples and you go, oh geez, that's not what I want. And then just to be able to write that next prompt that says, like you would in ChatGPT, oh, okay, you did this, but I'm actually looking for that. Can you do that?
You remix it. Over on the right-hand thing, after it gives you your 4 images, there's like a circle, like 2 arrows pointing at each other. That's like a remix or a re-roll. If you click that, you get to edit your prompt. So
okay, but it's still going to come out as a net new, like it would come out as a new prompt, right? It's not like it won't take in any previous information from.
Yeah, you're thinking more the way ChatGPT, you can give it feedback and it improves things.
Right. That's what I'm getting at.
I don't really see that much from Midjourney yet. I think it's, Beth, I'm sure you agree with me. It's more about try one, and if it didn't work, tweak it a bit and try it again and keep doing that until you get what you like.
Yeah.
Well, but you can also vary that's what the V's are for, right? So you can vary the image and you can set it for very strong or very subtle. If you very subtle, then it stays pretty much within that image and just shifts a little bit.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest. My
happy topic for me.
My Midjourney skills are limited because I feel like a lot of times I don't have the words I want. I have to go look at other people's prompts and say, oh, okay, I'll try that. But there's definitely a skill to it. I mean, Carl, Andy, Jimmy, you guys finding that you've had to, maybe enhance your skill set for Midjourney. Yeah, go ahead, Andy.
I want to just provide a general comment about generative AI, because both ChatGPT and all the other conversational models for interacting in text and Midjourney, Stable Diffusion, DALL-E, etc., are classed as generative AI. And they have in common that it allows you to provide text direction to an AI that would, in the case of Midjourney, is now generating an image. I know this is basic, but there are many of us, including me, who don't use it yet. But I see it as a really powerful tool for illustrating when you're generating documents, being able to add an image that you don't have to go out to stock photo or wherever else to find. You just provide a prompt, and that was what Brian was just mentioning. You provide a prompt in describing what you want, and it's going to give you an array of options, and then you can refine that. And then that's a brand new image that you can use you can include it without worrying or paying a licensing fee for.
Yeah. And that's, I use it a lot for that. Like if I'm building a website and I need a feature image at the top, particularly if I'm doing client content, I go in and create the image in Midjourney and put it in there instead of actually getting into a stock library. And I've got Canva and all that sort of stuff, but it's great. You can come up with your own unique content and you figure out what kind of works for you over time. So
my primary use cases have been ideation and just working through the artistic process. So there's a couple of teams that I work with, and the way we use it in for like the filmmaking process, it's depending on whether you're doing like VFX or animation, or you're even doing live action film. There's a process where you're storyboarding your concepts, right? You just want to put what you see in your head, in art form, in some form or not. And then it allows you to, Midjourney specifically, because with the different versions and what Beth was talking about, tweaking it and whatnot, allows you to explore your basic concept. And then you just do iteration after iteration. It's like, oh no, this doesn't seem quite right. This is not what I'm looking for. I need a little more of this or a little more of that. And you're just modifying your prompts and just churning out iteration after iteration. And for budgets or lack thereof, for projects that can't afford having an artist on team to do that initial work, or if you don't have the time yourself to do that initial work, it's great to cut down on that process, because you can go back and forth almost instantaneously instead of having to, do revisions and things like that. So that's one use case. The other use case is I'm working with a team that we're starting up a fashion brand. And so patterns, Midjourney's fantastic at developing patterns, and we're, we're applying that to different clothing cuts and things like that. How can it be placed? What kind of what kind of options are we looking for? And then iteration again. So it's a real good way of really honing in to what your true vision is and what you want to see, until you finally it clicks and it's like, that's it. All right, now let's go on and see the where we need the higher skill set. Okay, now we need our designer to be brought in so that they can really make this shine, or really make the
when you've got a concept to show them, it makes it so much more powerful. So, by the way, guys, I don't know if any of you are aware of this?
Yeah.
No. Oh, the magazine,
The Midjourney magazine, $4 a month. Sign up for it. It's
didn't know that existed.
Beautiful. And it's just got so many cool pictures in there for ideas, just to help you brainstorm stuff. And it's like the cheapest magazine you could buy, just about.
I know. One thing I've noticed, it kind of parallels to me when, code interpreter. And so give me a second to connect the two. But if you know how when code interpreter came out, or was released to everybody, there's so many people either on Twitter saying, oh, this is the death of data scientists or data analysts, right? Which doesn't make any sense. But what's really neat about Midjourney or any image generation tool is if you have an understanding of photography or videography or cinematography, it just, you as a photographer, you can 10x whatever you're doing, because then you know exactly from a prompt perspective what you're looking for, frame rates, lens ISO, lighting, all those things, right? The lens type. And then as a videographer, like the different angles, the lighting. So it just expands your skill set if you have those capabilities. So when you see those prompts, I just recognize it right away. It's like that. I think they're either pulling it from either that person was a videographer or pulling it from that field. And that field, we know, like those who are in that field, like, yeah, I know the shot that I want to take. I know the angle. I know the lighting. I can just implement what I'm thinking in my head now into here without having to get my subject, wait for golden hour, have the right lens, and have the right angle and take those shots at that time. Now you can do it like anytime, which is really fascinating.
Yep.
Yeah.
I have a technical talk to add here. So these image generators use an architecture called GAN, for Generative Adversarial Network. It's two big networks, two big neural networks together. When you put the prompt in, it's training the discriminator, which is going to test output from the generative one and see if it's getting closer to meeting the terms of your prompt. And it also has a lot of learning built into it to just say, okay, a human has eyes and nose and face, etc. And so in blinding speed, what happens is the generator starts throwing images out, and the discriminator network says, no, and here's why. And it sends this through a process called backpropagation to the generator. And then the generator does a zillion iterations, as you're saying, Junmi, but in the background, it's doing that to do just one image. So GAN, that's your technical term for the day, Generative Adversarial Network.
And is that, Andy, so I understand it, when you watch the images come to life, my daughter likes pointing this out. Well, first of all, my 12-year-old daughter could not be bothered to wait as long as it takes for a Midjourney image. the 15 seconds is just too much. She watches that thing and it says 50%, and she's standing at my desk like, I mean, are we going to be here all day? Is this like so? So it will never be fast enough for the teenagers.
A piece of paper and a pen.
Turbo mode.
Just cannot wait for
true.
it to be done.
That's probably true. As it gets higher resolution, as it becomes better and better, it's going to still take time, because imagery is a lot of information. So that's my guess. But powerful computing, right? The new NVIDIA, GPUs that cost $40,000 a piece, you gang 1,000 of those together. Well, maybe with a million people all trying to, put their stuff through Midjourney or Stable Diffusion, etc., it'll get faster and faster in order to satisfy the customers. But it's still a longer process than a prompt which is pulling from a single network what it already has in its weights in what are called the multi-layer perceptrons, the little neuron, things that are in this trillion parameter network.
It's interesting because I was going to say just real quick, like, look, at 45, I remember dialing into bulletin board systems, BBSs, where you had to dial in on a 2400 modem, and then I'd yell down to my parents because I was like a kid, and I'd be like, don't answer, it's a callback, which meant they had a callback. Beth knows. I can see Beth already knows, she's done this is like in the 90s. You had to wait for the callback that to verify that it was a real number. You were using a Yellow Pages phone book for the bulletin board system that said call this local Georgia number at the time, and then it would show up on the screen and it would load ANSI one line at a time. You'd be like, oh, this is going to be good. This is going to be good. I'm going to wait for it. And you'd be so excited. And so now, like, I'm still that kid at heart, I remember those days. And so, like, I watch Midjourney and I actually get excited that it shows me the process. It would be less fun to me if it just showed up after 30 seconds. Like, I like seeing the picture built, but it is interesting to my daughter, who is, when she was a little kid, didn't understand why she couldn't swipe pages of she had a magazine in front of her. We were just trying to keep her busy when she was a baby, and she's swiping the pages like this, and they would crumple. And she got so mad as like a 3-year-old, and we were just laughing at her, which probably didn't make it better. But like, it was, to her, it was like, why doesn't this work like an iPad? Like, I don't understand. The pages are crumpling, and she was super frustrating for her. So for this generation, to your point, Andy, look, we've seen this before, right? With Facebook is where I usually think of this. It was text, and it was like text and image. You're like, ooh, we're starting to see some images in our feed. That's pretty cool. And then it was like text, image, and oh, hey, here's video. Here's some short video. Here's an 8-second video. Here's a kind of blurry video. And we're like, well, that's pretty cool. Vines and things like that. And then now all of a sudden it's like 4K video and 8K video, and it's instantaneous inside our feed on Facebook. And now some of it has some cool 3D effects. I'm like, yeah, this is exactly what we're going to see from Midjourney and all the other ones. Right now, it takes 30 seconds to produce 4 images. Next year, it'll take 30 seconds for it to produce an 8-second long video at 24 frames per second. that's where this is going. We know the future on this. We know the processing speed is only going to get better and faster. And yeah, it might not be version 6 of Midjourney, but I do think we're starting to see some of these like 3D effects come in. And I think Jimmy, you were talking about it, and Beth, I want to get back to your example because I know I see you haven't set it up there, but about like just this idea generation and brainstorming and mapping out these big ideas, and then to your point, Carl, bringing in the experts after that, which is so much more cost efficient for a company. Because if I don't have to tie up a data analyst to do basic data analysis, and now everybody can do it, and I go, ooh, man, I've hit a roadblock. Time to bring in the big guns. That's the way I see this. And I think, Beth, you were sort of talking about it too, like bring in the valuable people, because I can use Midjourney all day, but my amazing friend, Angela, I'll give her a shout out, Angela Photography, if you want to go check her out. She's been a photographer since we got out of college together in like 2000. She's an amazing photographer. She will absolutely be able to use Midjourney and can use Midjourney more efficiently than I can, because she's got that knowledge base that I just don't have. She understands aperture and lighting and all these other terms that I don't even know what they mean. So anyway, Beth, I know you pulled up the example.
You got some stuff to show us, Beth.
I do. Okay, so this
Posh Paradox Design.
How do we move forward? There we go. All right, so this is an impossible image. If you look around the edges, it's flat, but it has a bench. So that's one of the early ones that I played with. And
these are really cool.
Thank you.
Nice. Do you know what this reminds you of, Beth?
What?
I had this idea ages ago. At some stage, could we take these kind of images and feed them into some fancy 3D printer and create these quote-unquote impossible products, if that makes sense?
You can do it now. It's just super expensive. So this is an example of where I didn't like the orange, so I pulled it into a program and I made it pink. It's still a little intense. And
that'll really ruin your feet. Oh no, they're vases. I thought they were shoes.
Their high-heeled table legs is actually part of the prompt.
Very nice.
All right, so this is an example of the process. I drew this in Procreate. I asked Midjourney to make it a throw blanket, and that's all right. And then this is a pod chair, right? So this is the iterative process. All right. So, and the next thing that I started doing, because it just happened, is like also action toys that do not exist.
Those are so amazing.
And tree sprites. So, yeah, you can do all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
There we go.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Woo. Nice.
Clearly the artist of the group here. I don't know, maybe not. Maybe other people could do it too, but that's really, really amazing, Beth. And what I love about it is, like, you've talked about this before with your background in improv and stuff like that. And I have no doubt that that skill set translates in a really interesting way into how you probably approach Midjourney. And I think that's kind of what we were all saying here, is like, this isn't gonna replace maybe some low-level jobs, but we all have our unique experiences that we're able to apply to these tools and get some really unique differences to them. But anyway, to your guys' point about how it helps business, and I don't know, we're kind of like 20 minutes in here. Do you guys want to sort of transition to some of the other tools, the stable diffusions and things like that?
There is one thing
we have to do, I think, is, since Robert's not here, we have to do the
pushback.
Who's got the pushback?
Here we go.
Why is Midjourney gonna fail? Go.
How is it horrible for artists? How is it going to ruin businesses?
I think it'll ruin if you run stock photography businesses. I think you'll be starting to get a little bit nervous about it. But yeah, for artists,
didn't Shutterstock though partner with?
They made a deal so that their images can be used for training data. Yeah. So I think that's, but see, that's an outlier, I think, is because Shutterstock is the biggest one, right? Them Getty Images, they're the biggest stock group. So anything that's smaller than them, I don't know if they're going to get the same kind of deal, or it's going to be the same kind of availability.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've run across one or two people who started making images and selling them through stock photography sites and have done fairly well out of it. And that's certainly an option depending on whether you have a particular target market you want. I mean, my interest in aviation, Midjourney is terrible for drilling planes, even still with version 5 point whatever. It still doesn't do great hands, so it's still got a way to go before it's universally usable. But I still love it.
It does great with stumps, though. It'll give you a stump.
Yeah.
Well, and that's part of the toy design, right? Like it's okay with like 4 fingers or like a little mitten.
What were you going to say, Carl?
Well, just from a business use perspective, and I'll tell you a little quick story. So about 4 years ago or 5 years ago, I was working for a home building company, and they love to put on events. And so they're always looking for photography. And sometimes they just can't get the photographer to take pictures of events, people. You can only take so many pictures of houses or communities. So one day I was at an event and they had a picture. It was a man, an Asian man with his son. Very typical stock photography, smiling, holding hand out, son smiling, everything, right? So that same day I went to the post office, had to drop something off. That exact same picture is up on the post office wall, this time in the context of, I don't know, dropping off mail or whatever it was. Like, that's very exact same. Then I went to Save on Foods. Do you know when you're on the checkout line, you have those dividers? Like little dividers too. Yeah, the exact same picture. So in one day, I saw 3 pictures being used by 3 different companies, pretty big companies, and they've taken the exact same picture. Right. So, but now with Midjourney and any image generation tool, you don't need to do that. You can generate whatever you want, and you will never ever have, like, all these companies can now make up stuff. And I think from a business perspective, that's awesome. But for any stock photography company, I think
it's a disruptor.
That's huge. That is huge because I don't think I'll ever see those 3 pictures in one day ever again. It was kind of rare, but I think going forward, it's 2 big implications on 2 different sides.
So I'm going to push back slightly on that. Because right now we do not own the copyright for images that we create. So you're right. You couldn't go to a digital, like you couldn't go to a stock photo and find these, but I could go to Aaron's feed and pick an image that I like and use it.
Is that for
he
all
doesn't
accounts?
own it. I don't own
there
it.
certain tiers that you do?
You can stealth. You can pay for
all the images that come out of Midjourney are royalty and copyright free.
Right.
Oh, interesting.
So okay, so let me just be clear.
You can use them for commercial purposes.
Interesting.
Right. That's what I was going to say.
You don't own it. Oh, okay. Interesting.
So you're saying, Beth, you can use.
I want to be clear there. You can steal your image and make something with it. So there is
you
that
can use
downside.
it. You can sell something with it, but you do not own the copyright because right now, and I actually don't know, Aaron, about or Carl, about your countries, but in the US, copyright is something that belongs to the person, and the Copyright Office is hearing suggestions about how they should do it, but currently a prompt is not enough interaction for that to be person created.
I think that'll be a huge sticking point. That's gonna be a huge debatable point because I mean it really comes down to who is the creator, right? And a prompt is the beginning of an idia, right?
And that was that was Adobe's use case. Was Adobe was like
okay, because the issue, I think, and this is probably going to be a whole nother conversation about this, is you need a force of will to do creation, right? And who's that force of will in an AI generated? It's not the AI, it's the person who's putting in the prompt. Yeah. So I think there needs to be a larger conversation about that. They may not think of it, but an AI is just a really advanced typewriter, right? And really advanced tool. And so just because it seems like magic, just means it's super complicated. That's all. But it's your Word document, it's your word processor, it's Google Sheets. It's not, you're still doing it. It might be super easy, but you're still doing it.
And in the history of art, these questions came up with printmaking. These questions come up with photography, right? Like these,
blah, blah, blah.
As tools get more advanced, the people go, but you used to do this by hand.
I mean, especially in image, right? And I know we're out of time here, but that's we've seen that over and over. I mean, Eastman Kodak, famously stuck in the film game just a bit too long and ended up putting themselves out of business, or your Blockbuster examples and stuff like that, who didn't adjust to the time. So when we hear these stories about Shutterstocks and all that, I'm with you guys. I'm like, yeah, why wouldn't you? Because you're quickly going to be out of a business model. But what does that mean for us as the business users, the end users? Well, it means that we're able to, generate ideas faster, perhaps be able to do more in terms of storyboarding and things like that, whether it's for a business idea or literally to build a movie, and then bring in the experts after that, which is just better use of time and investment from a company standpoint. I think I get charged like $5 to $10 every month for Midjourney. It just sort of pops up in my budget. And then I think every month, like, did I get $5 or $10 worth of value? And then I'm like, yeah, I got $50 or $100 worth of value. It's like 10x to me. Like, it's the easiest thing going. It's like the price of 2 Starbucks coffees a month. And you're getting this amazing tool that's helping you save time. I literally just used it this morning to help put images into a slide deck for work because I had the word blueprint. I was talking to you guys before, and I needed an image for blueprint. I just went and created one in Midjourney and then brought it right back into the deck. Took me 3 minutes, So I know we didn't really get to the other tools. There are other tools out there, and I just want to quickly hit them. There's more than this, because Stable Diffusion could literally be 1,000 tools, right? Because it's an open source model. But then, it's literally in 1,000 different ways. But then you have Midjourney, which we talked about today. Adobe Firefly, I was interested to see, has already created like billions of images, and they only really came on the block a couple months ago, but it's Adobe, so that's not surprising. A tool I really love is Leonardo. I highly, highly recommend going to check them out. If nothing else, go look at their user experience on their website, and then that's what I hope for Midjourney. Like, I think that's the model. You should be looking at Leonardo and going, oh, that's how you create an amazing desktop. And now they have an app. So now I can just walk around when I get bored or something like that. I'm waiting on my daughter to pick her up at gymnastics. I pop up the Leonardo app and I just start creating stuff on my phone. It's amazing. It's just, I'd rather do that with my time than like turn on YouTube or something like that, because I just love the creative process of it. Okay, we're way over. Any final thoughts on Midjourney, where it's going, or anything like that? Any closing thoughts here as we go to go?
I think the big one I'm really looking forward to, I don't know if any of you guys have tried creating video in Midjourney yet. It is possible to do it. It's not very flash, but I think that's going to be a really interesting future development. And I'm already seeing people producing individual video slides and making videos out of them. So that's one I'm really excited for in the future.
Go play with AI.
Go play. That's it. All right.
All
right, guys.
See you later, everyone.
Yeah.
Come back tomorrow.
See you, everybody.